And welcome to New Londinium 1910, which is my Let's Build series for my heavily modded steampunk world in Minecraft. And in the last episode, we had, made some progress on a number of things around the base, but the primary focus was to empty the village of Twin Spires. But now, I think I want to focus a bit more on the homestead, because one of the things I've come to realize is I'm missing some key resources for some key purposes, and one of those is the fact that I don't have really any way to effectively reach out and touch somebody, specifically the bad guys. I do have a bow. It's not magical, and I have a few arrows, but I mean, what is going on here? Okay, one, who is this guy? Two, where did he come from? And three, we need to get him out of there. Okay, so let me... I don't know where he came from. But there we go. Be free, little fella. What is that? He's a mason. Okay, so he must have locked on to my stone cutter in the house. Doesn't answer where in the world he came from. Okay, this is curious. And yeah, he's headed inside. Well, I didn't really want anybody else here. I wasn't planning on it. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to come up with a name for him later. Anyway, I don't have missile weapons, right? I can't reach out and touch somebody in that type of way, and I want to be able to do that. So I got rid of Tax Z. I mean, we will have guns in this world eventually. I just don't have them now, which means for the short term, bows are it. And to be worthwhile, I'm going to need to be able to make a mess of arrows, and arrows require flint and feathers require chickens, and chickens are not that difficult. You just need to set aside some space and calories to farm them. So something that we've been talking about for a long time anyway is setting up some space near the windmill. I need fences. I need a lot more fences. Fences this way? No, I think fences are poles, and yes, there we go. Anyway, so we've been talking about building pens near the area that we reserved for the windmill for some time. So let's do that. Now, as you noticed, that area is, well, it's kind of rocky. Well, I wouldn't say rocky. It's got some elevation challenges, and some of them are pretty deep. So we're going to need some dirt to kind of fill in some of that space. What else can I move? I'll move these signs. Find a place to put this stuff. I was going to do some things like a mechanical press and a washing station and a smelting station and stuff, but I'm instead going to take care of the yard a bit. When I was on my trip, I was inspired by some of the old homesteads and architecture and stuff, and so what I'd like to do is I had already come up with a kind of plan in my head for transforming the current terraced garden into a more formal terraced garden, but I'm thinking that we could do the same type of thing over here with the animals. Because I could just make it all one big flat grassy area, like we did with the windmill. Nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't look bad. It's not very creative. It's not very inspiring. So I want to do something more. So that's what we're going to do today. Haven't quite thought it through though, but I do think it'll be kind of a similar idea, a terraced model with some retaining walls, so that we can kind of start stair-stepping down a bit, right? Kind of make use of this elevation change. And I got a bunch of dirt, and I hear music. No, I don't. Use this coarse dirt to kind of fill in areas that will be covered up with regular dirt. Coarse dirt can be pretty useful stuff, but it's not particularly attractive. So, unless there's a reason you want that kind of rough dirt texture to be out there, I usually try to hide it by putting it under stuff, using it as filler. There's the music again. It's in this neighborhood. It's not my villager. Let's see where he is. Getting louder. He's probably under this overhang. Or not. In the bushes? No. Is he underground? Is there an underground? Is there a cave? Oh yeah, here we go. Is it a skeleton? Well, I'll come back to that later. At least it's a different tune than the last few times we've had this happen, which is nice. Change of pace. Okay. Oops. So, you know, when we were in New England this past week, and if I haven't said it yet, I'm back. You know, we were in New England for a week on a little family vacation that we wanted to take before the girls returned to school later this week. Yeah, he's close. But, you know, probably taking a vacation wouldn't be the best thing to do right now since I'm currently between jobs. But, you know, we try to make the best use of our travel dollar, which means a lot of times the things that we pay for up front are non-refundable. And instead of just walking away from the money completely, we made the best of it. Economized where we could, but still went on the trip. And this year we took a trip to the greater Boston area, southern New England for the most part. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Very nice, because the girls have never been in New England, and both my wife and I have been in the Boston area, but on business, right? Like in her case, it was a long layover at the airport, so she left the airport and had lunch with somebody and then got back in the airport and took off. And in my case, I was working a job where I traveled. This shovel's going to wreak havoc on this stuff. Look at how smooth and buttery this goes. You know, though, we could make this shovel even better by putting excavation on it. And I have an advanced enchantment fuser, so that's easy peasy. What else can we do? We can take the unbreaking all the way up. I don't want to take efficiency too far. Anyway, when like last time I was in the Boston area, I flew into Boston, but my foot, my feet only touched Massachusetts soil long enough to get my bags, go to the car rental place, pick up my car, and then I was off to Connecticut. So, and I didn't even return home from through Boston. Flew home directly from Connecticut. So this time I actually got to leave the car, see things a bit, and that was wonderful. It is wonderful. I do really love the area. I enjoy the area, though. You know, there's only a few places I'd be willing to live if it wasn't where I already live. And as much as I loved Boston and New England, I really loved Rhode Island. Yeah, I don't think I could live there. I do enjoy all the history, though. And, you know, when I go to these places, especially places that have old architecture, when I spend a lot of time looking at the architecture. I mean, if you look at the pictures I take on my trips, about 2/3 of them are the type of pictures you expect to see, you know, family standing in front of tourist things or whatever. And then 1/3 of them are just like random pictures of buildings and balconies and fences. And, you know, if you didn't know what interested me, you're probably wondering why in the world I took those pictures, because a lot of times they're not particularly beautiful or interesting in a traditional way, but I'm capturing the form. I'm capturing, you know, historical, actual examples of architecture that I could then study and think about using in, you know, things like this. So that's what I was doing. Anyway, so it was interesting because you know, especially Boston, but I think New England in general, or Massachusetts in particular, you know, there's a lot of buildings there that people live in that were built 200, 300, even 400 years ago. And I don't know what my wife was thinking, because I was pointing out, like, as we drove through really, really old towns and neighborhoods, I said, you know, some of these buildings, most of these buildings were built in the 18th and 17th century, 1600s, right? And my wife kind of poo-pooed it. It's like, they don't look like they're built 400 years ago. I'm like, well, it's not like they built it 400 years ago and then they never fixed it up again or anything. I mean, you know, over time, you got to do repairs, and as better materials are available, then, you know, you kind of swap out the old stuff with the new stuff. But when you look at these houses, the particular design they have with chimneys smack dab in the middle of the house, and the size that they are, very small. I mean, there are many new modern houses that try to imitate the form that you see in that New England architecture, and it works really well. I mean, you know, they definitely get the vibe, but you know it's a modern house because it's like over 1,000 square feet, sometimes 2 or 3, and this music is driving me nuts. So let's do something about it. Anyhow, these old houses, they're tiny. They never would have been built this small in this day and age. Oh. So the zombies beating the snot out of somebody. I kind of dig that. Let them chew on each other a little bit, because, you know, if they're going to go to the trouble to beat the snot out of each other, and at least I could do is accommodate them. Wait until they're done. I mean, it's the only polite thing to do. Plus, I guess there is a little sliver of sunlight. He's got a helmet on, so he's not going to be impacted by the sunlight. Ow! What was that? Hi. How you doing? That was awesome. Can't reach him. Oh, I can reach him. Okay, what? Ooh, that's another mob with... Well, that's not what I wanted, but... Here. Go away. You, go away. Here. You go... Whoa! Yeah, whatever. What in the world? There's way too many mobs down here. Yeah. Okay. And let that be a lesson to the lot of ya. Okay. Well, let's pull a Debbie Boone here and light up our life. There we go. A spider someplace. Okay, let's pick up some of the goodies. I don't know how much of this I can pick up. Got some dirt with grass down here. Interesting. That looks like a block that was dropped by an Enderman. There's the spider. Okay. Let's see. This is pretty dark over here. Huh. Some iron. We will take the iron. Thank you. And what else? Okay. Let's put ourselves on a little bit of an elevator here. The old classic dirt elevator. Yeah. Been playing a bit of Enshrouded lately, and I got the double jump, and boy, do you get spoiled with the ability to double jump. Okay, but at least I can work in peace up here now. Anyway, so yeah, we were in the New England area. Some of the family had some gastrointestinal discomfort, so that kind of messed up some of our plans. But we still did get to go out a bit, and you know, so we spent some time in Boston proper. Took a guided tour along the Freedom Trail. That was pretty cool, because you know, big history buff, and that's history. You know, we also spent some time in surrounding towns, including Salem, which is known for its witches, Plymouth, which is known for its pilgrims, and Rehoboth, which is probably not known by hardly anybody except the people who live there. But I know about it because folks from my dad's side of the family had been living there for about 380 years. It was only in the past couple decades that everybody finally moved out, and which is too bad. And the ancestral family farm is now a subdivision, but the name of the street is still named after the family, so we got a picture of the girls standing by that, and it's just interesting. And of course, you know, Salem has a family connection in that one of my 10 ex-great grandmothers, so that means you say great 10 times before you say grandmother, she was hanged as a witch during the Salem witch trial. So we went and visited the memorial where her stone is, and of course there is Plymouth Rock, where the Pilgrims landed. Now, that's a family connection too. We had people on the Mayflower. However, what a lot of people are not aware of is that while the Mayflower certainly carried the Pilgrims, it carried a bunch of non-Pilgrims as well. People who weren't particularly religious, but the idea was that this time around this expedition would be profitable. So among the non-Pilgrims on that ship were my ancestors, the Billingtons, and if you read them, they're definitely not pilgrimy. They are kind of like anti-pilgrims, but it was 400 years ago. My family's changed a bit, so we went there and we saw Plymouth Rock, got pictures of that, and we saw Mayflower 2, which is, the Mayflower is long gone, but Mayflower 2 is a reconstruction of the original ship, and we didn't go on it though. I mean, the problem we had was that when we arrived at Plymouth, we kind of figured we'd spend an hour there tops, see everything, take some pictures, check out a museum if they had one, and they had one. But the problem was that was the day they decided to do this big outdoors festival at the waterfront, and so the place was packed. I mean, it was packed, and we had to park quite a ways away from the waterfront, and then hike in. So it was about a mile and a half from where we parked to walk to the waterfront and Plymouth Rock and the Mayflowers. We'll build a retaining wall over here, but for the terrace, I think I kind of want the terrace to be tall enough to require a retaining wall. So we'll want to build a retaining wall of stone, and since this is the walls to my base, I think that is a natural boundary for this effort. So anyway, I guess my storage is full since I'm not picking up this dirt. We'll take care of that in a second. Throw some of this weird stuff into the backpack. Anyway, it was just interesting. Like I said, my wife, she just expected it to look like a 400-year-old house, not a house that people lived in for 400 years, making changes and tweaks as they went along. So, anyhow, and the problem is when I say something, my wife poo-poos it. It doesn't. Somebody else can say exactly the same thing, and it doesn't matter who they are. It could be like, the guy at the convenience store, when you're buying a Slurpee, and if he says it, he gets more credit than I do. But anyway, and sure enough, when we went in Boston, we took the guided tour along the Freedom Trail, and the guide basically said exactly what I did, and she took his words at face value, so there we go. But it's one of the few places in the United States you can get that, because I used to live in the UK. I was stationed there for a couple of years, and of course, a lot of New England culture and history starts with England. And I think I need to start here for my steps down to the next level. Anyway, so it's not surprising. And when I lived in England, it was pretty wild because I grew up in the West, Western North America, right? And in the West, the oldest stuff we have, except for some Spanish stuff, is a couple hundred years, maybe a couple hundred. I mean, the Spanish stuff might be a couple hundred years. There's might be some stuff from the 1840s, but for the most part, it's like the 1880s, 1890s. Now, don't get me wrong, that's old, but when you're talking about 1890 versus 1620 versus 1066, yeah, 1840s are not old, and or 1890s are not old. So it blew my mind when I was living in England. You go to somebody's house. Just somebody's house. I mean, just a normal dude, right? You go to his house, and it's a cottage that's been in that village for 700-800 years. And there's nothing particularly special about the cottage or the guy who lives there. It's not like, like his family's lived there for thousands of years. I mean, in some cases that is the case. But no, I mean, his family moved there, whatever, and the cottage is, old. And I remember his kid starts drawing on the walls with a crayon. And I'm like, because, again, where I came from, something was 50 years old. We build a fence around it. It becomes a National Historic Site, and everybody has to take off their shoes when they go in. But, this guy has a kid drawing on crayon on the wall of this 700-year-old cottage, and it's like, oh my God! It's like, don't worry about it. I mean, the cottage has been here for 700 years. I mean, it's been here through the English Civil War. It's been through all sorts of crazy stuff. There's nothing that kid's gonna do, certainly not with a crayon, that is gonna jeopardize his house, right? If anything, it's just part of the history. Oh, well, gosh, and that's exactly what I saw in New England, in Massachusetts, right? It's same type of deal, which is, where I come from, buildings that old are, like I said, you build a fence around them, charge admission. They're a tourist attraction. They're just everyday buildings, right? It is what it is. I like that. So, okay, we're going to use this deep slate cobble because we're going to build this terrace, but we're going to build paths right down here, right? Not just kind of willy-nilly. I think it's, we have the basic forms in place. Now we need to start fleshing in our sketch with, some proper architecture and features. So a walkway would be one of them. And over here at the end of our building, we'll go ahead and add the other access stairway. Anyway, it was nice. It was really nice. One thing that kind of caught us off guard too, though, is when we were on Cape Cod, we actually spent a lot of time at museums and stuff. Plus, the traffic getting out there was bad, and the family got a late start. So we by the time we wanted to go all the way to Provincetown, but it was getting late in the afternoon, and by the time we got to a beach, we went to Sandwich. Not to get a sandwich, but rather the village of Sandwich, or township, or whatever they call them. And we went to their beach, and a beautiful little beach, wonderful little place, a beautiful little town, for that matter. But and yes, yes, we saw the sandwich police. So if anybody ever makes a joke to you about the sandwich police, they do exist. Anyway. The thing that definitely caught our attention a bit was is when you go out on the beach, they all the typical type of warnings about shellfish and stuff, but then they have one that we don't normally see here in the West, which is hey, be careful out there because great white sharks swim in these waters. And then it dawned on me, right? New England, this is the setting for Jaws. I mean, yes, great whites inhabit the waters around Cape Cod and Long Island, and So, I mean, we weren't going to go out in the water properly anyway. So we just, got our hands and feet wet in the Atlantic because, Pacific's no big deal. We do that all the time. But it was nice. I hadn't touched Atlantic seawater for 35 years. So, and then it was nice. Very nice. I will tell you that Massachusetts drivers on the highway are crazy, dangerous. I mean, so not all of them, right? I'd say like 80% of them are perfectly fine, but you have about 5% that drive 10 to 15 miles an hour below the speed limit on the highway, which, I mean, I'm not talking about like some big truck or oversized vehicle. I'm talking about just some guy in a Toyota Tercel or something. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, like about 10%, where these guys, it's not, they don't drive fast like 5 or 10 miles over the speed limit. No, they drive fast like multiples of the speed limit, right? Well, maybe not that bad, but they're going 15, 20% over the speed limit. Speed limit's 55. I'm doing 60. They blow past me like I'm standing still. And it's not just one. I mean, in one spot, we over the course of 3 minutes, we had 11 guys blow past us. Like, they were firemen on their way to a fire. So that was interesting. And of course, if you drive around Boston, I don't like driving around Boston, especially Boston. But I mean, this is a problem with Massachusetts in general, is that it's old. It's really old. It's like Europe old. So the problem is that all the roads that you see today are basically paved roads that were established 300 and 400 years ago, long before there were cars, right? And in the West, when people arrived, right, they arrive at an area, say, we're going to establish a town from nothing. We got 200 of us. So immediately they start laying down stakes and they plot streets on a grid pattern. And for the most part today, streets in the West are pretty much built on a grid pattern. But in the East, it was very much like Europe, right? Which is some dude would pop up and say, this is a good place for a town. I'm going to build my house right here. The house could be faced in any old random direction. And somebody else comes along and said, hey, I like this. I'm going to build my house over here. And they're not necessarily aligned with each other in any way, shape, or form. And, do this a few dozen times. And now you've got all these houses in the village, and they're all facing kind of crazy directions, and they're not lined up with each other. I'm gonna okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fence posts. Okay, so that's one pen, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So let's fill this in. Oops. Okay, let's do this again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I need probably one more. I guess it'll be off this side. That's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this side is 1 block shorter. So we just need to move it all over 1. I can do that. Anyway, so you've got these houses kind of laid out all willy-nilly, and then people walk between them, and just where they happen to walk, they wear out the grass. And then or they move their animals through there. So again, wherever people are spending a lot of time walking, that's where natural paths evolved. And then from there, they became roads. And then people started building new buildings that are aligned with these roads. And here we are 400 years later. You've got these willy-nilly street layouts that just drive you nuts. And they're not going to like nuke all the buildings and the roads and then put it on a grid pattern. So they do their best to kind of try to adapt the roads and the intersections and, the modern way of moving around town into this kind of crazy organic road pattern. And in some cases it works out pretty decent. And in 2, 3, 4... I just realized that this has nothing to do with the stairs. Like this one, it was lined up to the stairs. It's 7, all right, but this moving the stairs didn't expand this over because the blocks in the ground I didn't base off of the stairwell. And really not much point in moving the stairs again. We'll just go with this, I think. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There you go. Anyhow, so they've done a pretty good job, but it can be really hard for visitors like myself to navigate in that area, right? Because a lot of times, if you don't already know, like there's you're gonna have to make like a double back on yourself turn up here ahead, or that there's a crazy roundabout that goes into 15 different directions. If you don't really know that ahead of time, you're at a disadvantage. And I'll tell you, Google Maps helps. There's a lot of stuff that I never would have figured out without Google Maps, but it's not a panacea for everything, because there's a lot of stuff that Google Maps, I'm coming up on an intersection fast and I'm trying to figure out what to do based on Google Maps, and Google Maps is just kind of shrugging its shoulders going, I don't know, you wing it. And it's like, yeah, that's useful. But yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting. The other thing, at first I thought it was just stupid, right? Which is when I need wood to make more fences. When you're driving on the highway, or when you're getting on or getting off the highways in Massachusetts, the way it works is you have this tiny little lane that you pull over into before you go into the off-ramp, and then they have a similarly tiny little lane that you go into when you come onto the freeway, but you have to yield to traffic that's already in the freeway. So you have to, a lot of times people will come up in that little lane and then they're practically at a dead stop and they wait for a break in traffic before they speed up. And it's kind of a boneheaded system, right? I mean, with that being said, you get in that little lane, and then when there's a break in traffic, and it's never big enough break, you basically floor it like you're like a Viper pilot in Battlestar Galactica, right? You're launching from the Galactica Mach 12. Now, I thought it was pretty goofy and a bad system, and to a certain extent it is. But when we went to Rhode Island, they have the same thing, but it works in Rhode Island because when we were in Rhode Island, they had a fraction of the number of the people getting on to or off of the highway. And that's when it dawned on me, the system actually works very, very well if you don't have a lot of people. And the problem with Massachusetts, especially around Boston, it's got a lot of people. So that's why I thought the system was stupid, is because it's not really it doesn't scale well, is what it is, right? It doesn't serve well when you have, practically bumper to bumper traffic zipping down the highway at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, and you're trying to merge in from this, 300 feet lane. Yeah, it's, but clearly, another problem is that Massachusetts, especially the Boston area, it's largely built up. So, if you want to add a longer lane, you can do that, but you're going to have to tear down whatever is at the side of the road to give you the extra real estate to do it. And 9 times out of 10, that means tearing down something of historical significance that's protected, so you can't do it. So everything I said for those, traffic engineers in Boston, I still think the system doesn't work well. But then again, I understand how you got to where you're at today, and I feel your pain about fixing it in the future. So there you go. And if you haven't driven in that area, well, if you do sometime, you're welcome for the warning. Now, one of the things that was interesting for my girls is my girls used to spend their summers in Russia with my wife and her family. So, they're used to going to places that are different, right? And rural Russia is very different from the Pacific Northwest. But when we went to Massachusetts, we've done a lot of trips with them, but we've gone to California, we've gone to Oregon, we've been all over Washington, we've been in Montana, Idaho, and while there are some very subtle differences between those places and where we live, they're all pretty darn similar. But in this case, we went to New England, right? So it's, across the entire country, on the other end of I-90, by the way. So now we've been on both ends of I-90. We live at one end and we visited the other. But the point is that sometimes it can feel like a different country, right? Because there are brands, both in stores and products, that you have in some parts of the country that are different or not available at all in other parts of the country. And to that end, when we got there, we were trying to be very frugal with our money. So we figured that as often as not, we'd like to just, grab some sandwiches or something from the deli at the local market, and instead of going out to eat, because even going out to eat is like $60, $100, even a fast food place for a family of 4. So that's what we were doing. But when we're like, okay, well, let's look for a QFC. No, there aren't any. Let's look for a Fred Meyer. Nope. Safeway. They might have Safeways someplace, but we didn't see any. Because they have different grocery stores. So in the Boston area, it was Market Basket is pretty popular or pretty common. There's Aldi's, which I've never been to one right before. They didn't come to the U.S. until I was pretty done with most of my traveling, so we didn't go there. There was a Wegmans, which was pretty nice, but these are all stores we'd never heard of, so we didn't know what they were good for or not good for. Kind of had to play it by ear, had to learn. And it was the same thing too, like products, right? So in the West, my family, with the exception of one kid, my family likes their mayonnaise, and that's it. Okay. And in the West, the mayonnaise we prefer is one called Best Foods. Now, there is no Best Food mayonnaise in the Eastern U.S. And in the Eastern U.S., the big name of mayonnaise is Hellmann's. But here's the thing: Hellmann's and Best Foods, it's the same company, it's the same stuff. It's just that Once upon a time, they were two different companies with similar stuff, but I don't know which way it went. I don't know whether Hellman's bought Best Foods or Best Foods bought Hellman's, but now they're the same company and they have the same product. It just has a different label. And if you didn't know that, you might go, oh, because I catch people with that, right? It's like, oh, I absolutely hate this Best Food stuff. Only Hellman's. And it's like, okay. You know, what you're telling me now is that you're basing your opinion really off of something other than flavor, because they're the same stuff, right? But anyway. So it was just interesting because it caught my girls off guard. The same thing with gas stations. There's a few gas stations that are the same, a few chains, but a lot of them are different, right? And but for me, I always found that interesting. Also, you know, the same thing about words, because my girls have grown up in the Pacific Northwest. And in the Pacific Northwest, if you want a carbonated flavored soft drink, you ask for a pop. But no, and in the New England area, you ask for a soda or a soda pop. And in the South, you ask for a Coke. Even if it isn't a Coke, you ask for a Coke. So if you want an orange soda, you ask for an orange Coke. But it would not to be confused nowadays, where you can get a Coke with, like, you know, orange flavoring in it. That's a different ball of wax. But you know, anyway, it's just so the girls had to get used to that too when people referred to things by not a completely foreign term, but certainly one that causes you to think. The one that threw me for a loop is, of course, like I said, I lived in the UK, even drove in the UK a little bit, and in the UK, at intersections, they prefer to use what is commonly called in the UK and in the Pacific Northwest a roundabout, a traffic circle, right? Where, you know, you kind of enter the traffic circle and you go around the circle and then you exit the circle in some other direction. Well, they got them in Massachusetts. They got them all over the place. Yay! But the problem is they don't call them traffic circles, and they don't call them roundabouts. They call them a rotary. Which, you know, with me, when you say rotary, I got three different images in my head. One, I think of the fraternal organization, so a bunch of Rotarians sitting around, you know, having a meeting and planning their next, you know, Rotarian barbecue. And that's the other one. Then the rotary also reminds me of rotisserie. So now I'm thinking about a chicken roasting on a rotisserie in that barbecue. And of course, I'm ancient, so rotary is actually a type of phone, which you put your finger in there for the number you want, and you dial by rotating that dial to 0 and then letting that go. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will find a link that shows that and post it, because it's pretty bizarre. It's because the way that phone switching worked back in the day. I mean, way back in the day, you would basically pick up the phone. An operator would see that you're picked up the line, and she would ask you, you know, what do you want? And you're like, I want to call somebody, and here's the number. And then she would basically have a patch panel, right? Like you see in the old movies, where she, you know, takes a cable with two plugs and she connects two different places on her switchboard with this cable and the plugs, and now your call's connected, right? Eventually they had automated switching, where you could dial a number, you know, and then it would basically automatically connect you to the right party. But in the case of these rotary phones that we had for thousands of years, it feels, you know, they didn't have, it didn't play the little tones, right? It's all like boop, boop, beep, boop, boop, and then your call went through. What happened, it was clicks. So when you dialed like a 9, So you put your finger in the hole for the 9 and you rotate it all the way around as far as it'll go, and you let it go, and then it clicks back, right? It goes click, 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 click. Each one of those clicks is being picked up on the other end of the machine, and it's counting the clicks, right? So it knows that the phone number would be, if each set of clicks was a number, because you couldn't do this fast. As hard as you try, you could not dial a number very fast. So the machine was able to keep up, right, and count the number of clicks, and that's how it worked, right? So very ingenious but primitive analog system, and I just find that stuff fascinating. That reminds me, we went to the Heritage Museum, which is in Sandwich, Massachusetts. That's a beautiful museum. It's basically 3/4 of it is a botanical garden, and we like spending time at botanical gardens, like kind of just walking around and being mellow. But this one, they had a classic antique carousel, which is unfortunately being maintained, going through some maintenance right now, so we couldn't see it in action. But I did see it. It is gorgeous. It's in a beautiful building as well. And they had an exhibit showing the cranberry industry in Massachusetts, and I found that interesting because most of the cranberries you eat or drink today, some definitely do come from Massachusetts, but the vast majority of the ones that in today's products come from the Pacific Northwest, and in fact Western Washington. So I found that interesting because we've gone to cranberry museums in Washington, and so it's just interesting to see how things are different. But the one that really caught me, I can pick this stuff up, most of it, some of it's not done percolating yet, but the one that really caught me is they have a classic car museum, right? And they had a few cars from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, but the vast majority of these cars are like 100 years old or older. And I dug that, man. I just totally dug that. The type of stuff that might not be totally out of place in the steampunk world. What is he doing now? I don't know. Yeah, like there was an electric car. Which of these? Eventually they'll all have this rich soil. Oh, this is tea. Yeah, okay. I can give this the rich soil. Anyhow, there was an electric car from like the 1880s or 1890s, which, or maybe even 1910. I don't know. It's old, right? I mean, it's really old, but it's an electric car, right? I mean, we think about electric cars as this new thing, but there was a time in the early days of cars where gasoline-powered cars were not necessarily the foregone conclusion for the future. Electric cars were making it work. Now, I think what eventually killed it is simply the fact that we were still electrifying the country. I mean, first of all, electricity was very new to us. So things like batteries and stuff were not very efficient. We didn't have a lot of electrical generation available. And with these in mind, that electric car works just great if you live in a small town and you're going from one side of your small town to the other side of your small town. But I think I need more dirt. Anyway, but if you lived in a bigger town, in a big city, especially one where there's a lot of stop and go traffic and stuff, you may not have the battery power to keep ticking through all that. Nothing grabs my interest immediately, so as opposed, and not only that, the range would be really limited. I mean, range is a problem with electrical cars today But that's with, over 100 years of battery technology working in our favor. And in those days, no. So, I mean, that's probably what killed the electric car back in the day. But I do find it interesting that, there are times when technologies that wouldn't work, couldn't work, were rejected, eventually come into their own. Or better yet, technologies that were in their own but were eventually replaced and yet come back because, well, like in this case, right? Sooner or later we're going to run out of fossil fuel. I mean, that's just a given, right? Now, whether it happens next week or 200 years from now, that's another discussion. But sooner or later, we will run out of fossil fuel. We would have burned it all, and then what happens? Well, then whether you want it to or not, I think electric's kind of like the choice, and that's what we'll have to do. So. But, that's after electric was dropped. That was after, electric lost this battle 100 plus years ago, and now conditions have changed. Anyway, we'll get this dirt here, and we'll try to finish up our pens. Now, I'm making 3 pens. Right off the top of my head, I know I need one for chickens. I like to have one for cows. But I don't really have anything planned for that 3rd pen. So it's just kind of like a matter of whoever we run into. I mean, it might be sheep. But I'm growing flax, so there's really not much point in having sheep. But we'll see. And what I eventually envision, it's not just a pen, right? Not just like, oh, here's a pen, and it holds my animals in place. Like I've been trying to do all along. Try to build something that goes beyond the absolute bare necessities for function, but kind of tries to fit the form and the function if this was a real world, right? So what I'm saying here is you could build a pen, you can put your animals in it. That certainly meets any type of needs or requirements you would have for farming them, but think about it. What was that? It's a snail. When he jumps back into a shell, sounds like an arrow or somebody swinging a golf club. Anyway, but if you think about it, right? Yes, you do see cows out in pens all the time, and horses, but and they're really big pens. So you may not notice that at the corner of the pen or adjacent to the pen, there's some type of shelter for the animals, right? A barn or something like that. So. Ooh, I'm running out of time. So today we'll just try to finish the pens, but in the near future we'll want to build some type of little barn or shelter on this back side of the pen for the animals, right? So they have a nice cozy place to hang out. In fact, interesting side note, if like I said, I've been playing a bit of Enshrouded lately, and in Enshrouded, I want to replace this coarse dirt with regular dirt because regular dirt's kind of ugly. So any place that's going to be on the surface, you want to use regular dirt. Anyway, but Enshrouded, when you're farming animals, there's some requirements. For example, they need to have their own bed, 1 bed per animal, and that bed has to be sheltered. In other words, there's got to be a roof, and for them to produce at peak efficiency, they need to be fed, right? So they definitely have feeders, so you can throw a sack of food in there and wander off for a while, but you got to feed your animals. So I think that's important, even if it's not absolutely necessary by the rules of the game or the mechanics of the game. You gotta take care of your animals, right? I mean, what if we find ourselves in a Planet of the Apes situation and then animals are taking care of us? Wouldn't you want your keeper to treat you well, feed you well? Hopefully not feed on you, but certainly, take care of you. I mean, there's a whole industry in this country around real people doing exactly that for their pets. I mean, when we go on our trips, the girls like to watch Food Network, and because we don't get it at home. And I remember there was a commercial, and the lady says, "Yeah, I cook for my dog." And that was the thing, right? It was some service, like you have these services where you're a subscriber, and every day you get a shipment from the food company that has everything you need to make a meal, right? A nice little gourmet meal. They send you all the ingredients, and then you put it all together at home and have yourself a nice, proper meal. Well, this is exactly the same thing, but it's for meals for dogs, which sounds a little wacky to my ears, but we live in a world for a lot of people. I mean, for a lot of people, that is apparently not wacky. In fact, there must be enough people willing to do that somebody spun up a business, including TV advertising, national TV advertising, to talk about it. So there you go. So with all that being said, we should be nice to our four-legged furry friends, and that includes building them proper shelter. So let's put these fences down. I don't need to count it because I know where the intersections will be. And this is just temporary. We will build some barn type of things over here. And I don't mind boxing myself in because I can just run over to the gate. And that looks good. I think that looks good. And I think that's all she wrote. I mean, it was maybe not a groundbreaking episode, but I think it was a casual, relaxed episode where we made a plan and we stuck with it and we got some stuff done, and I'm really liking what I'm looking at right now. So this is good. Hopefully you agree with me. Hopefully you enjoyed our time together. And I hope that continues through to the next episode where we'll pick up where we left off. But in the meanwhile, I hope this finds you and yours in good health, good spirits, and perhaps a touch of good fortune. Cheers.